Testing. All right, so I just tried to do a video, and let me see. I believe I got struck. I'm gonna check it out. I went ahead and deleted it anyways. So yeah, I think I got struck. I played some stuff from ESPN on there. I was doing about the draft, the NFL draft. But this one I'm just going to do true crime, and hopefully I don't get struck. I'm going to play a video here. I'm just going to say her name. I'm this under the fair use policy, so let me go ahead and play some music. And this is for education. This is under the fair use policy here. Let's see. Okay, yes, it's got like a beat to it. So play about right there. I think I should do it. Hear the music. And this video will be credit to, if I could get her name up here. I'm just going to go ahead and play it. Let me tell you a little bit backstory. Actually, this young lady here, who was 29, I believe I think she was 29 when she went missing. So she'd be like 30, 31 now. She actually went to school with my nephew and I believe my niece. They're from Vienna, West Virginia, Parkersburg, which is neighbor to Parkersburg. Her dad, who unfortunately passed away when was that? Not too long ago. I think this year. He had a heart attack and he was 53, died in his sleep. And her grandma, who passed away, I don't know how she passed away, but they were her biggest advocates. Her real mom passed away of cancer, I believe, when she was younger. And she was very, what I understand, like very artistic, artistic, like not autistic, artistic, like artsy, very stylish, very beautiful, like model looks. Young lady, and she worked, I believe, at like TJ Maxx, and she was into style. And hopefully they show some pictures of her because she just looks like a model. And so she went missing, and I guess her, they didn't report her missing for a while because she lived with her grandma and she was kind of in and out. And I believe at one time in her life, like she was living down in North Carolina, and I could be wrong about this, but I don't think they even knew for a while that she moved down there. She was 29. So, like somebody, you don't hear from somebody for a while, but then they did. And then they reported her missing. I want to say it was like 8 or 10 days, but not 100% sure on that. I know they did some voluntary searches. I was going to do one. And then something happened where I didn't get around to it. Well, it's like a group search. And she went to 2 bars. I went to them, but I quit going to bars about 5-6 years ago. I just quit drinking. But she went to the locker room, and then she went to the My Way. The My Way it is a rough bar. I got in a couple fights there. And the bad thing about that is it's known for like people putting stuff in your drinks. I think somebody put something in my drink. I mean, it was weird. Like I went home and like I puked and, but it's bad about that. And she left with this older guy that is, I think his real name's Daryl Lott. And he changed his name to Percy Pringle. He was a former cop, I believe, maybe even chief of police at one of these smaller towns. And there's some stories about him, awful stories about him. I'm not going to go into all of them. But he's the main suspect. They interviewed him. He changed his story. He said he dropped her off at the water wall. There's a water wall there by the Ohio River because of floods. he said he dropped her off there. And then he said he dropped her off near the police station. So he changed his story. This guy is out there somewhere. Last thing I heard, like he said he was homeless and he was living in Martinsville. I heard he got kicked out of a bar in Huntington, and people know him, and you know, I know like they kicked him out of that bar. They were ready to beat I understand they were ready to beat him down. I don't even know where this guy is now, but they searched his car, and he had this car. I don't know what type of car it was. It had real dark black windows, and it had like a Darth Vader thing on it. And they searched his car. They searched his property. He actually, you know, the property was close to where I grew up at on Division Street. It was in Southside Parkersburg. And but they haven't found this young lady's. They haven't found her yet. And I think that's what's holding it up, like the Sebastian Rogers, you know, type thing, where they haven't found the body yet. And they search, you know, they want to find this guy just because he's a former cop, and I believe he got fired. Doesn't, like, you know, that has nothing to do with he was fired as a cop, and you know, there's some stories. He was a DoorDash driver there for a while. I don't know what he's doing now. And then there was another case here in Parkersburg. It just got solved, and I think I put it on there. I did a video a couple weeks ago, I believe. Cindy Ball, and like I said, I went to school with her and her brother, real good guy, Bernie Ball. But they indicted the guy, Greg Casto. Once again, one of those things where everybody knew who did it. It took 11 years. I think they said DNA. There was another woman arrested too, but she was arrested later. In my opinion, I think somebody talked. This guy, Daryl Law, I don't think has too many friends, you know, and I don't. You know, they have a theory what the police think happened, and you know, they search certain areas that they think for what happened where, you know, her remains could be. It's been, I think, 3 years now, but I'm gonna play a video here, and this young lady here fills it in a little bit better. But I am from this hometown, and I felt it. It was around Christmas time, and you know, her dad was very well liked. He was a wrestling coach. He was a state wrestler himself. His name is David Fleming. And man, you watch the interviews of him, and it's so sad. And he unfortunately passed away. And I just hope that, you know, they find her and there's justice. Yeah, it's just a sad situation. And this one's close to me. And I'm just gonna go ahead and play this video, and hopefully I don't get struck again. Seems like that seems to be all right.
Gretchen Fleming from Parkersburg, West Virginia. I am sure many of you guys are going to remember when Gretchen went missing because it is a relatively recent case. This occurred a little over a year ago, and for some time there was quite a bit of media coverage on her case. I saw Gretchen's face all over social media, which is the best
they did a
hope for
episode,
but there really weren't a lot of questions answered in the end, and it seemed that the coverage fizzled out. I wasn't finding anything new. There were a handful of Facebook groups and locals that were maintaining efforts to find her, and obviously her family, but I just feel like there were a bunch of missing pieces in her case. But things have ramped up more recently because Gretchen was featured on the newest season of Disappeared.
There it is.
Her family has come forward and said they wanted to be able to clear things up. They wanted to answer some questions and get out as many details as possible. She was real stylish in regards to Gretchen's disappearance because they're hoping that someone saw something and can help find her. So let's get into the details. Gretchen Fleming was born on December 24th, 1994 and she was raised mainly by her father, David, in the town of Parkersburg, West Virginia. And according to her father, this was a great place to raise kids. Parkersburg is a very tight-knit community. All the neighbors look out for.
So that's the water wall I was talking about, where he said that was one of the places he dropped her off. Now, it would have been like over on the other side. This is facing Ohio. This is the Ohio River right here. The other side, can do an area is where he would have dropped her off at, or he said he did. And then I believe he said he dropped her off at the police station.
For each other. It's considered to be a safe place. And based on their response to Gretchen's disappearance, I 100% agree with every single one of those statements. This community really stepped up and helped in every way they possibly could.
It did, yeah.
Now, growing up, Gretchen's mom and dad split when she and her sister were very, very young. And from the way it's described, she did maintain some contact with her mom, but they weren't quite as close. At least nowhere near as close as Gretchen and her
I don't
father.
know a lot about
Gretchen
that. Their mom
was
passed
attached
away
at his hip. They rode bikes together, they played together, and he supported every single one of her
That's
dreams.
her father,
growing
David.
up.
There.
Gretchen was always up to something, whether it was playing sports or he was toting her around to all the different extracurricular activities that she managed to cram in a single day. She was always a busybody, always wanting to try something new, and he was her biggest cheerleader. Gretchen was always seen with a book in her hand. She loves to sing and write, and her creativity really knows no limits. I feel like every single one of her friends that described her said that she just walks to the beat of her own drum. She's the epitome of that. She has her own style, she's so unique, and everyone seems to love her for it. Gretchen really looks up to her dad and values their relationship, and for the longest time, it was just Gretchen, her sister, and her dad against the world. So it was a little bit difficult when her dad met another woman, Jennifer, just after Gretchen turned 14. And man, 14 is already a scary age for a teenage girl. So this was a big change for Gretchen. Jennifer also was bringing in a set of twins to the family, and eventually David and Jennifer welcomed a little one of their own. So Gretchen's house went from her sister, and dad to a bustling mixed family of 7 relatively quickly. Now, after adjusting, Gretchen did finally warm up to the changes, and she ended up becoming very close to Jennifer. Jennifer was now her confidant. It was the person that she could all.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Everything I understood, they were close. I didn't know anything about, but I'm sure there was some awkwardness. I mean, your mom dies, or I thought her mom died. Maybe they just got divorced, but I could have sworn maybe of cancer or something early on. But everything I understood, and the stepmom, and she was there, like every interview they did, she was there for David. She did talking. You could tell like she loved Gretchen, and just wonder found, and I'm sure still does.
Always go to if she had a problem. But through all of this support, Gretchen's confidence was just through the roof. And from the time she graduated high school, she had a rough idea of what she wanted to do next. She hadn't settled really on a strict career plan or a plan just for adulthood in general. She went the route of, I want to go and experience life as much as I can. She was young, she wanted to see new places, and for as long as everyone could remember, she hoped to move from Parkersburg, which isn't a tiny city, but it was a relatively smaller city,
about
to a large
40,000 people.
She wanted to move to either Raleigh or Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, this was going to be so exciting for her. It was going to be a change of pace, and everyone knew that Gretchen would absolutely make it there, because when she set her sights on something, she made it happen. So off she moved to North Carolina.
I believe she wanted to be a
Gretchen
sportist
started
too.
to work different odd jobs to pay her rent. She was really living day by day, learning about herself. She was being young, and her family always said no one was really worried about her because Gretchen just always somehow figured it out. She went with the flow. She was a free spirit, and she just made things happen. She eventually ended up going to school at both William Peace University and Shaw. Both of those are in Raleigh, North Carolina, where she studied political science. And eventually she met a guy, and they were all about each other to the point that she moved to Charleston, South Carolina to be with him.
Charleston, South Carolina.
And according to her family, it was pretty serious. They had a few conversations about marriage. But around this time, Gretchen's life unfortunately became difficult. I don't even want to say difficult because it's just life. It was just challenges, things that she was having to face head on. But unfortunately, they were rough challenges. Gretchen's mom got sick, or something happened. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure what it was that placed her on life support. And Gretchen was the only person written down that had the legal ability to agree to stop.
I forgot about that.
And I guess it got to that point where Gretchen had to make that decision. I cannot imagine what it was like having to do that. And around this same time, Gretchen and her boyfriend also made the hard decision to go their separate ways. So this was a lot all at once. She had so many different things changing around her in a big way. So she decided to move back home. She needed a reset. She needed to figure out what direction she was going to go from here. But at this point, she was 27 years old and didn't really want to move back home. All of her siblings were still there. They were all old and rambunctious and doing things, and she didn't necessarily want to be surrounded with that anymore. So she decided to move in with her paternal grandparents in Vienna, West Virginia, which is directly beside Parkersburg. There's like a cluster of small towns right along the Ohio River, and it just made more sense. Gretchen didn't have her driver's license because she never had the desire to get.
Yeah, people drove her around. She didn't have her driver's license. Who is? I want to give credit to. See if I can. This creator here. I can't find her name. Jeez. Well. Sorry. Oh no, what just happened? Oh shit. Am I still on stream? Am I still up? Okay. Yeah, the whole thing just I was trying to find her name, her channel before let's see. Let me minimize, or did that make it bigger? Okay, her name is Danielle Holland. I'm probably saying that, but is that showing it? Is that showing her? Yeah, right there, Danielle Holland. So like and subscribe her videos. Subscribe to her. All that good stuff. Yeah. Danelle. Danielle Holland. Hallan. Hallan. So subscribe to her. I wonder if she's from the area. Here we go. Does that show right here? Yeah. So lady. Man, she's doing pretty good for herself. 695K subscribers. Damn, she's probably pretty close to getting a plaque. So, Danielle, please don't strike me. All right, let's go on here. I just want to get that out of the way.
Get one. She probably would rather spend all of that money on other things like traveling and living expenses and going out than a car and car insurance. And this didn't bother her because she knew she had people that could take her wherever she needed to go. And moving back home, her grandparents were available for that. They were able to drive her to work. So this was a good setup for her. And despite the recent changes that she had faced, Gretchen seemed to be doing okay. Her stepmom and dad, of course, said that she was struggling, but she was still happy. She was still moving forward because that's just how Gretchen was. She ended up getting a job at a local H&M and Grand Central Mall. She was happy to be around family again, and she settled right back into her social routine. And this brings us to her disappearance. Gretchen's dad last saw her on November 24th, 2022, when her family was together to celebrate Thanksgiving. Gretchen's dad was so excited during this time because he had just started a new job. He had plans to travel the next week. Obviously, Christmas is coming up. Gretchen's birthday was coming up. So there was a lot going on. It's a busy time of year. And so he ended up not reaching out to speak to Gretchen again until Monday, December 5th, 2022. At this point, he was back from his travels, had settled in at work, and was excited to have time to check in on her, hopefully see her, maybe make plans for her birthday, but Gretchen never responded to his text. Now, one thing that is very important to know about Gretchen is that she was independent, okay? She did her own thing, so she would usually eventually text or call you back, but there really wasn't any rhyme or reason to it. I feel like in so many different cases that we look into, everyone's like, this person was clockwork, they would immediately text back, but with Gretchen, you just never knew what what you were going to
Yeah,
get.
that seems like
Sometimes
with
she
all
would speak
kids.
to her dad every day. Sometimes they would go a week plus without speaking. So he didn't have any reason to think much of it when he reached out again on the 8th and still didn't hear anything back from her. So there really wasn't any concern until December 11th, when Gretchen's grandmother showed up distressed at her parents' door. Keep in mind, Gretchen had been living with them, but according to her grandmother, she hadn't come back home since Sunday, December 3rd. Gretchen's grandmother last saw her that day dropping her off at work, and that was 8 days prior. Gretchen had told her during this that she wouldn't need a ride back home afterwards. She explained that she was going out with friends that night, and this was very normal for her. Her grandparents had a strict rule at their house that they locked the door at 10 p.m., and if Gretchen wasn't there, she wasn't getting in, and Gretchen understood and respected this rule. So usually when she planned to be out late, she wanted to go out with friends, she would just crash at a friend's house. And she did this pretty frequently. Gretchen would sometimes spend days away with friends. I mean, she was an adult, try to remember that, so no one really thought twice about it. When Gretchen didn't come home in the first few days, no one was alarmed, but when a week had passed, the longest that she had been away, her grandmother knew that something wasn't right. Everyone started to call Gretchen's phone to see what on earth was happening, but it was going straight to voicemail, which made everyone that much more unsettled. So they decided to head out to downtown Parkersburg, where Gretchen would have gone out the night that she was last seen. They were hoping that if they went to all of the different places Gretchen frequented, someone would know who she was with that night, if she left with someone, if she said she was heading anywhere, just some sort of answers. And they stopped at her favorite place to go, a sports bar called Front Row. Now, they showed the bartenders Gretchen's photo, and sure enough, the bartender had seen her that night of the 3rd. And not just that, they had Gretchen's purse. The bartender at Front Row said that Gretchen had been at the bar that night with a few friends and ended up leaving with a guy named John.
Yeah, now let me pause. Let me stop it there because I want to get caught up. Yeah, it was the Front Row. I believe the locker room, which is just down the road, is where that's the last place Cindy Ball was at. And then her vehicle was there, I believe, and the tires were slashed. And then they found her like a day later, shot in the back of the head out in Wirt County, which is like out like Parkersburg. There's these little small towns like Wirt County, Lubac, Mineral Wells. Then you got like Williamstown. You got all these little towns around it. And those little towns, a lot of them are like, there's nothing there. You know, everything's in that area. Is Parkersburg's kind of there. Like Parkersburg got the mall and, you know, the big stores. So people from those small towns come to Parkersburg, you know, either shopping or whatever. So that guy, that John guy's talking about, like, he was pretty much clear. He was just a friend. I think he took back her purse, or she left her purse there, and then she went to the My Way, which is a rough bar. Now, what I did,
handed it over to them, saying that she had lost it. So this is seeming a little bit sketchy.
That was her purse.
But John was not a familiar name to her family. So while this was giving them, you know, at least a little bit of answers,
he was
where
a
she
friend.
Started out that night,
and I think
she may have been with. It scared them more than anything else.
He was just a friend.
Who was this guy? Why would he have her purse and then turn it over to the bar the day after she goes missing? Emily also happened to run into a few of her friends while they were there, and they all corroborated this exact same story with John, saying that she left Front Row with him, and they said that the two were actually heading to a place called My Way Lounge for karaoke. So we now have another place Gretchen potentially went, but her friends hadn't seen or heard from her since. So obviously her family went straight to My Way Lounge, still in the downtown Parkersburg area. They wanted to ask them questions, see if she went somewhere from there, and everyone was so helpful. The DJ that had been there that night of December 3rd was there again, and he too remembered Gretchen being at the bar, and he confirmed, just like everyone else, that she had been with a guy named John. But after this, no one seemed to know where she headed, if she left with John. The trail seemed to go cold. So her parents went home to try to regroup and figure out what to do, because at this point, they knew that Gretchen likely hadn't just disappeared. She wasn't off somewhere with friends. It felt like something had happened to her, because when they opened up her purse, everything of importance to her was still in.
Yeah, she left her purse at the I'm gonna I gotta take a break here. I just did a video earlier. It got taken down Yeah, she left her purse, I believe, at the front row with everything in it. That's always suspicious. All right. She's doing a good job of the events. Everything she's saying, that what I remember checks out. So yeah, yeah, they interviewed that guy John, and no, wait, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to put me. Where's the? Okay. Yeah, they interviewed that John guy, and he was just a friend, and I think he pretty much ruled him out pretty early.
Her ID, her phone, her tablet, her bank cards. So they decided to charge her phone and her tablet, and luckily when they powered back on, they weren't password protected. So her family started to go through every single thing inside of them, her recent texts, her calls, her social media, to see if there were any clues as to where she went, who this John guy was, but they weren't really finding anything. Only that her last texts that she sent were from the night she disappeared. They even started calling everyone in her contacts list, desperate to see if she was just staying with a friend, but this was a dead end as well. So by the following day of December 12th, 2022, Gretchen was reported as missing. But at this point, there was already so much lost time, you guys. That's an entire week. So police didn't have any time to waste, and they dove right in, assigning Detective James Zimmerman to the case. Not only had it been a week since she was last seen, but they also were not working with a lot here. They had no way to track her through her phone or her bank cards, a lot of the different ways that they typically rely on, because her purse had been sitting at the bar the entire week. So they wanted to at least cross off some of the possibilities to help them direct their focus. So authorities started to call local hospitals and shelters, and they checked in the police system to see if maybe she had been in an accident. Maybe she was picked up by police officers while downtown, but there were no hits. They also went back behind her family and combed through all of her social media media again, but still nothing. So they started to reach out to her friends, where they again confirmed she's with this mystery guy named John. From there, they began to spread her photo in the media, hoping that someone would come forward with tips, not only to figure out where Gretchen was, but to figure out who John is. And that same day, John himself ended up reaching out. He wanted to clear his name and give police all the information that he had. John proceeded to tell the police that he had in fact been with Gretchen that night. He confirmed they went to Front Row, then they went to My Way Lounge, everything seemed to be lining up so far. Once they were inside, they ended up getting separated at some point. John told police that he had tried to look for Gretchen once he realized she was nowhere to be found. And eventually, he ended up figuring out that she left her purse in his car when they went from one bar to the other. So he didn't even have any way to call her and make sure she was okay, see if she still needed a ride home. So after walking around the downtown area for a while trying to find her, he ultimately figured that maybe she found other friends, maybe she already left, so he decided to go home. They asked him at this point, why did you take her purse back to Front Row? Because to be honest, this was still a little suspicious detail in this story. It was kind of weird. John claimed that this was the only way he thought he could get it back to her. He didn't know where she lived, so he couldn't go drop it off at her house. He obviously couldn't call her on her phone to say, hey, I have your purse. But one thing that he did know was that she frequented Front Row and would very likely stop by there to try to figure out where her purse had gone. So at this point, they were for the most part able to confirm John's story, and he even went and spoke to Gretchen's parents. He was devastated over what had happened. He felt so horrible that she had gone out with him and he left thinking that she was fine, and instead she turned up missing. And he was willing to help whatever way he possibly could. So what originally seemed like a promising lead was now completely explainable. Now they were left with the question of, where did Gretchen go at My Way Lounge? Did she leave by herself? Did she leave with someone else? There were so many more questions. And by the following day of December 13th, the lounge actually answered some of those questions. When I tell you that this whole town was playing FBI and doing everything they could, I mean it. The owners of My Way Lounge heard about Gretchen's disappearance, and so they went through every single inch of their surveillance to see if they could figure out when she lived.
Yeah, that's the thing. We are kind of what we call small town, like compared to the world, but like we're not compared to West Virginia, if that makes sense. But one thing is, like, yeah, everybody come together on this. I remember they had a lot of visuals, candles and all that stuff, and the press was pretty big on it too. And it's kind of went like there's pictures up everywhere. And I don't know if there's still a bulletin board. There was a bulletin board. But you got to keep in mind, too, her grandma, who she lived with, passed away. Her father, who she lived with before that, passed away. Her mother passed away earlier. The only one, like, really in her life, blood-wise, she has stepsisters and stepmom and all that. But, like, blood-wise, the only one really left in her life is her other sister. I can't remember if she was younger or older.
Left, if she left with someone, or if she left alone. And on the footage, they captured exactly what happened inside and just outside of the bar. On the footage, they were able to confirm that Gretchen and John arrived together. And just as John had said, after a while, they got separated. Gretchen was captured sitting alone at the end of the bar, and a few seats down, John was actively engaged in conversation with a few other people. So he didn't notice when an older man walked up to Gretchen and handed her a drink.
Yeah, there it is.
Big red freaking flag.
Probably
Gretchen and this older man had a conversation for a bit, and she eventually followed him into the gambling room at the lounge. And after about 30 or 45 minutes, the camera caught them both coming back out of the gambling room together, and they left the bar. And according to the bar, this man that Gretchen left with was 55,
or her dad's age. I didn't know there was a gambling room there. So, like, when you go into My Way Lounge, you got to go in the front door. I believe there's a side door you can go out of. But when you go in, there's pool tables on the right, and that's facing, rest of Parkersburg town. And then there's a bar, and it kind of goes up, and there's a bar and then there's bar stools all the way around, and you go straight out, and there's women's and men's bathroom. The men's bathroom's all the way down, and then to the left, that's where all those slot machines are. I can't remember any other place. Like I don't think there is a back room where you go to the slot machines. I believe they're just like right here's the bar, and they're just right across from the bar, like right across from the bar. And then like there's an upstairs, but I believe that's like whoever owns it or works there lives. This bar's been there for years. It used to sell alcohol like at 4:00, and they used to let people smoke in there when you're not supposed to, and people get rowdy in there. There's fights all the time. They used to have like karaoke and pool tournaments, but it's right there, across the bridge from Ohio. Like you keep going straight, there's a bridge that takes you to Ohio, Marietta, Belpre, Ohio. But I didn't know anybody in a room with the gambling. I haven't been there about 5 years, but I never noticed that if it's there.
Year-old Preston Pierce. The way that this town was just able to name off people left and right, the level of appreciation that I have for that is huge.
Everybody knows this guy
so much.
Everybody knows this guy had something to do with it. Like I understand, like he was living somewhere else. As like they know who this guy is, and I understand they give him a pretty hard time. I heard like in the bar at Huntington, like they kicked him out. There's people ready to, beat the shit out of him.
John had gone to the bathroom when Gretchen and Preston had headed out of the bar, so he had just missed her, you guys.
And I believe they have footage of him leaving the bar. I think it was on that disappearance episode. I would play that. That's really good. This shows all the places, but I probably would get struck.
And after he returned, you can see him on surveillance searching the bar, trying to find her before ultimately leaving. All of this footage was handed over to the police. The bar said that Preston wasn't necessarily a regular there, but they obviously knew him enough to know him by name. And because he was now the last person to be with Gretchen, an active missing person, police immediately brought him in that night to question him. Preston seemed forthcoming when he spoke to police. He told them that he had met Gretchen that night at My Way Lounge. He said that he didn't know her prior and agreed that the two left together, but he said that he dropped her off somewhere in downtown Parkersburg, and that was the last that he saw of her. So at this point, authorities are like, okay, he's claiming he dropped her off somewhere. They've not released where he said he dropped her off, but
yeah, I understood he was kind of a regular to bars, maybe not that one. And then, like I said, I heard he told two different stories. And I like one, he said he dropped her off at the water wall that they showed beginning the video. Maybe that was the last one got struck, but they showed the water wall there. It would have been on the other side they showed. And then he said, I believe he dropped her off at the police station. So his story changed. And then I'm almost positive he didn't take a poly. So he was probably cooperative until they asked him to take a polygraph. And the guy, keep in mind, the guy was a former cop. So he knows how stuff works and, criminal justice, what they're looking for evidence-wise. And they did a search on his property, where he lived. Well, I don't know if he owned it, he rented there. It was a house. Maybe he rented it out. And they questioned him. And last thing I heard of the guy, he posted something saying like he was living in Martinsville and he was eating out of a dumpster and he was asking for money.
They're thinking, we've got to corroborate his story, okay? Which should be easy enough because so much of this downtown area is covered in surveillance.
There's his vehicle. It was all black and they had
going door to door
it had the
downtown,
Darth Vader
asking
thing
for footage from the night of the 3rd into the early morning hours of the 4th, and seeing if anyone maybe saw Gretchen walking around downtown alone.
Oh, they
which
searched his
would
vehicle.
also help
That's what I was
corroborate
gonna say.
stories,
Yeah, they
because
searched
they're
his
also
vehicle.
thinking, okay, if she was dropped off again, did she end up with a third person, or did she walk off on her own and something happened to her? And thankfully, everyone was so cooperative, gave authorities everything that they had, and they were able to piece together a bit of the movements and some of the timeline. Now, I don't have specifics of times and things like that. They are keeping things very close to the vest, But cameras captured Gretchen and Preston leaving My Way Lounge and heading to the parking lot that is around the side of the lounge. And it kind of sits in between My Way and the News and Sentinel. And more cameras covered that entire parking lot, and they captured headlights turning on and Gretchen and Preston leaving the parking lot. Preston's car is then seen turning down the alley and heading towards 6th Street. Now, this is like smack in the middle of downtown Parkersburg, okay? And police were expecting to see Preston's car stay in this downtown area, hopefully capture where he claimed to have let Gretchen out of the car, maybe see where Gretchen headed on surveillance after this, but they just weren't finding that. Instead, Preston's car was captured on Ann Street by a Sheetz gas station. And this is almost as if they came out of the parking lot. I'll obviously have a map so you can see, and then turned around, doubled back down Ann Street. And this heads completely out of downtown, across the river, and towards the direction of Preston's house, which was around 2 miles away from the downtown area. Now, again, we don't have a timeline of this, so I don't know if it leaves room for him to have gone somewhere else to drop Gretchen off, but I'm assuming police have done all they can to look in this very small area to see if anyone captured anything. But from what they've said, nothing they have found have corroborated Preston's claims of what happened that night. Instead, it suggests that he did something else entirely, that he actually took Gretchen home with him. Now,
and they searched, this is it. Yeah, they searched this property. Keep in mind that vehicle will probably have GPS on it, so they probably know everywhere he went. And keep in mind, I know they did 2 searches in certain areas. One was, I believe they were both at parks. McDonough Park, and then I think there was another park. Can't remember. And they they have a theory. What I understood, what I hear, they have a theory what they think happened. I don't want to repeat it because the family's listening or whatever. But I will say this guy is a former cop. I think it's state police. Chief of police, smaller town, I believe. And there's some, girls that he was a DoorDash driver, and I guess he was bad about stalking girls. And then there was a girl that basically said that, the dropping thing in drinks, like the Bill Cosby thing, he's done that. He did that to her, and I won't get into the specifics, but and this is alleged, her allegedly her story, not saying it's not true or not, but I'm not telling it, so I'm just saying I'm repeating the story. So this guy's like a prime suspect,
Despite continued efforts to find signs of Gretchen walking all around the downtown area, desperate to see if maybe they just missed something, they just weren't finding it. So by December 15th, they were able to secure warrants to search Preston's home, his electronics, his vehicle, and his storage unit that he had. And I do want to state really quickly that when all of this was initially happening, police were not releasing his name at all. So no one was really coming forward. It was just this mysterious guy out there that was potentially connected to Gretchen's disappearance.
They got
separate
this
search
vehicle
teams
here.
headed out
That's
to check
forensic.
all of these different places. Police again have been.
And I heard he was at the car wash. There's a car wash just down the road there, and they had him, I don't know if they had guns drawn, but something about a car wash, and people talk. And I think everybody knew who it was and what was going on here.
Pretty tight-lipped on what was or wasn't found, but I do know that multiple potential pieces of evidence were gathered and sent off for forensic testing.
Yeah, we don't know if they found or didn't find anything.
We were able to pretty well zero in on a person of interest that we needed to speak with.
Mm-hmm. What is this person saying about the night of her disappearance, and are there any inconsistencies so far?
Initially, within 24 hours, our investigators did speak with him. In that time, he did confirm that Gretchen did leave the My Way Lounge with him. He provided a ride.
Video.
But then it became very inconsistent in regard to where they parted ways.
Yeah,
we've furthered the timeline and the time that we believe that they may have been together with other surveillance videos, things of that nature.
GPS
that has the vehicle that we've provided you
GPS
photos of, traveling in the direction at least towards the person of interest residence. He has denied she was ever there, but once again, it was very inconsistent.
Can you share with us why this person has not been charged yet?
Nobody.
Well, we don't have a crime. It's still an investigation. We're still looking for Gretchen. We do not want to speculate. Still hoping that there's a positive resolution to this. Quite honestly, the investigation is flowing, but we are at a point that we are comfortable saying that we believe this person of interest has more information that he could provide us and that we would like to have, but we have not got.
And there's a pretty healthy reward. I think it's like $100,000. Like, that's a lot of money. You know, that's a lot of money. And this guy has the answers. Yeah, I don't even know where he's at now.
However, when these searches started occurring and information was hitting the news, Preston's name eventually ended up being released. And so Gretchen's family started to dig into this Preston guy to figure out who the heck he was.
That's not even his real name.
Because they didn't know him. He was much older than Gretchen, and they weren't sure why she would ever leave with him. Especially because their first few seconds of their encounter, this man she didn't know handed her a drink.
Look at her and look at him.
And that was not sitting well with anyone.
I'm sorry,
with the news releasing his name and everyone starting to hear about this, it resulted in a flood of alarming tips that were mainly from others' experiences with him.
Yeah.
You put someone's name out in the news and the first thing you get is a bunch of people saying, hey, this guy's bad news. It's really not a good sign. According to Gretchen's family, friends and strangers alike began to reach out to them as well, concerned that she was last seen with Preston. Now, I cannot confirm any of this information. It has not been confirmed by authorities. There are a few screenshots on the documentary of some of these statements that people have said, but to give you an idea of what was being told to them, Preston worked for a food delivery company in Parkersburg. And according to several women, I am talking like several women in the community, he used his position at that job to prey on them. Obviously, working at a food delivery company, he would have the names of the people he was delivering to, their addresses, their phone numbers, and story after story started to come in where women said that after he would deliver them their food, he would start to personally text them inappropriate things after making his deliveries. There was one woman that said that he was like showing her and sending her pictures of ropes and just like really freaky things that made them uncomfortable. Several people also claimed they had to just stop ordering food entirely from the company because of how uncomfortable it was and how persistent he remained. Other women ended up coming forward as well, saying they had encounters with him at several bars in downtown Parkersburg, people saying that he harassed them and stalked them. It was a really scary situation. And it wasn't just one or two people coming forward with this. It was just comment after comment and message after message. And most alarmingly, a story came from one of Gretchen's family friends. She apparently had a close friend that met Preston at one of those bars in downtown Parkersburg. And the next thing she knew, she woke up at Preston's house and had no idea how she got there. Now, she did report this to the police, but this made Preston approaching Gretchen with a drink even more frightening than it already was. Now, again, police have refused to speak on all of these different claims.
I'm glad she
Gretchen's
went into
family
it.
and all of these people have been very, very vocal about what happened to them. Now, at this point, it seems that Preston had started just refusing to cooperate with police. I think once his name got out there and people started saying things, he got an attorney, and from my understanding, just completely remained quiet. He would not cooperate any longer. So searches began in areas that Gretchen could have ended up in. They checked out around the Ohio River. That usually goes. They also went with over 500 people to search Mountwood Park.
Yeah, there's all these searches. Mountwood Park, and I think McDonough too. But look at that. There's a lot of people showing up. Yeah, I remember I was going to do this cold that day too. But I mean, it seems like it's the same thing. Like, they get the cops zero in on somebody, and then they cooperate at first, and then they're like, hey, and they kind of ask them to take a poly, and then it's I'll take it, and then and then it's time to take it, and then all of a sudden, they show up with a lawyer. It's the same thing. I mean,
which is pretty close to Preston's home. They also drilled and emptied a well entirely after getting a tip that Gretchen had been put inside the well.
Yeah,
There was no stone left unturned.
Watch out for everybody out there today. Let us find this girl, find some closure for this family. Community members praying for answers today.
There's some good
Hundreds
people
driving to Mountwood Park, about 30 minutes east of Parkersburg, to participate in the search party.
We were hoping for 100 people, and
I think that's her
have
grandma.
3 sisters.
Yeah,
and a
she
good
passed
friend
away.
came to
That's
my
her
house
grandma.
yesterday, and we made 200 sandwiches, made bags for them with cookies and sandwiches, thinking 200 would be enough, and it's not going to touch it.
Even though it was cold and tiring and I'm ready to go home, I would do it all over again.
Search teams of about 15 per group scouring the park, which includes the area around Harmony Ridge Recovery Center.
I've received numerous tips for Mountwood throughout the last couple weeks.
Police did not specify what exactly they were looking for, but said it's a recovery search. Volunteers were asked to point out anything that looked like it didn't belong in the woods.
Part of me wants her found, but then I think, what will I do if she is found? You know, it's just, you want her found, but not in this way. Parkersburg Police Department has been criticized on Facebook. So unfair. You have no idea the hours they're putting in. They're wonderful, and there's no police department that I'd want on it besides them.
People coming from hours away to participate in the search. Police haven't released if anything was found in the search yet, but they did say that they were able to search all the places they wanted to.
As a mother, that's why I'm here, just because if it was one of my kids, you know, I would want everyone to participate and come and help.
And that's the really unfortunate thing about this case as well, that usually when a person goes missing, you're going to be doing things like tracking a phone, like I said earlier, or seeing if there's any movement on their bank cards, even looking for those physical things. But Gretchen had left all of those behind, so really the only thing they'd be able to find would be Gretchen.
I believe they
herself.
have
At this point, it seems like the news really died down. There was not a whole lot of information coming from police still. There really hadn't been any to begin with, and so the public started to voice their concerns that they felt the case wasn't progressing, because you have to keep in mind that there's a now potential predator out there in the eyes of the community. And this person was the last to be seen with a missing person that is still yet to be found.
And then you had the Cindy Ball case too that wasn't solved as well. I'm going to take another break here.
And so people were upset, they weren't feeling safe, but police and Gretchen's family both came forward trying to reassure everyone that they are doing everything they can, but they have to protect the integrity of the investigation. And because things seem so sketchy, I'm not sure how much evidence is out there. They have to hold on to every single thing they possibly can. But what matters most is that the police are keeping Gretchen's family up to date and are still actively investigating. And
I get that some members of the community, are wanting those answers, and as we do too, but we can't act out of emotion. We can't act out of impulse. We have to deal in fact, and we are. And this is a slow, methodical process. And we owe that to Gretchen. We owe that to her family. We owe that to the community.
Preston has, however, officially been named as a person of interest. Police believe that he has more information that he's not bringing forward, but unfortunately, they can't get him to talk. And when I kind of briefly dove into some of the Facebook groups and the forums about this, what I was finding is absolutely bonkers, because apparently Preston Pierce has not always been Preston Pierce, okay? Preston Pierce actually used to go by the name
He had to change his name.
So I'm over here just wondering to myself, why did this man change his name? He
Why
has
do
a
you change
history
your name?
in law enforcement.
I'd
There's
do
just a
something.
lot of information that is circulating out there
yeah.
that I've not been able to confirm or deny, and no one other than these forums really seem to be talking about. I've seen claims that he's now living in a homeless camp somewhere. I have also seen claims that he was selling a bunch of guns and other questionable things almost immediately after all this happened. Like, people have got screenshots. The level of FBI work that's going on out there is absolutely crazy. But again, we just don't know if any of that is connected or if it's all just some crazy coincidence. And the police are just having to trudge through all of this information. Now, at this point, everyone in the community has done all that they can to gather surveillance. They have assisted in searches. Posters are still all over Parkersburg to remind people that Gretchen is still missing. They're in people's yards. Her family has put banners up. There have been t-shirts made and bracelets made and vigils held.
There's still signs
they have
up
donated money
I don't know if there's
to
a
a
bulletin
reward,
board,
and now everyone is just
I think it's like
hoping
$100,000
that
now,
someone comes
95 or
forward with the right
100,000
information, or
reward.
maybe some sort of fresh eyes on the case will help push
I mean,
it
if I
to
was
the
that
next
dude,
step.
I'd be hiding
And
too,
at this
man.
point, they've managed to get the reward up to $100,000.
Yeah, I think
guys.
I think it is.
Gretchen's
This was a
family
year
is
ago.
doing all that they can,
She was
which
a tiny little
included
thing, too.
being on the disappeared episode. Her dad said, quote, nationally, maybe this is going to trigger somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody knows a tidbit of information they may have been withholding and they're scared to come forward. Maybe this will stir them up and maybe put the heat on the people who are involved or the person who was involved.
I really want to thank the community for coming together for
There's
our
her
family.
dad.
The passion, donations, just being there for us. Thank you.
Gretchen's grandmother
He was a
says
wrestling coach
she
too, I
can't
believe.
sleep until the person or people responsible
All-state
for
wrestler,
the
great wrestler.
disappearance are put away.
I don't know how you can live with yourself. You need to tell the truth.
He was a dude,
You're
man.
lucky
I remember he's my brother's age.
Gretchen, I love you.
He was bad. Yeah, he was a guy, man. You know who he was.
It seems that everyone's biggest fear is that people will forget Gretchen. People will stop talking about her case, and they're worried someone out there really does have the right piece to be able to solve all of this, to figure out where she is, to figure out what happened. It's just about keeping the momentum going and keeping Gretchen on everyone's minds. Her grandmother strongly feels like they are close to getting some sort of resolution, but until then, her family doesn't want anyone to forget her. Her sister said something that I think is the perfect way to end the video. She said, quote, to me, she's my sister, my best friend, my inspiration. So when you think about Gretchen, I ask that you think about her in this way, as a real human with friends and family and unfinished goals and aspirations. So many people love and miss Gretchen and want to know what happened, and an entire community is holding their breath. Would love to see her face all over social media again, so please make sure to share this video.
Yeah. I want to see the comments. Yeah. This is oh shoot. These are the comments that people left, and I always like to read these because I don't know if I can make it. I don't think I can make it bigger. But yeah, here's one. Nothing screams suspicious like being the last person with a now missing woman and refusing to talk. Yeah, I mean, guilty people act guilty, you know, like you got nothing to hide. Like that one, you know, the one kid with the purse, he went right up there, went right to the police station, clear his name up. Hey, I had nothing to do with this. You know, brought her purse back. Yeah, what a wonderful Parkersburg is. It is a nice little town. You know, I lived here my whole life. Well, I moved here when I was 12, but I consider this my hometown. And I moved away. I tried to move away a couple of times. Always come back. You know, it's a good place to raise a family. Really good place to raise a family. You know, not a lot of crime. You know, and good people, you know, really good people. You know, something like this happens. A small town, you know, they really come together. There's a movie about it, the Dark Waters, with Mark Ruffalo about the DuPont thing. That takes place in Parkersburg, and that took place. Well, I mean, the guy was about Tenet. I think his last name was Tennant. Or anyways, his granddaughters' names were Tennant. And I went to school with one of them, but everybody thought this guy was crazy and everything, man. And he helped, cause DuPont from polluting the water, and he took it all on himself. And there's a really good movie about it. Let me see. I'll play the trailer. Hopefully I won't get struck. I played trailers before, not got. There's another movie called Dark Waters too, but I think this is it. Yeah.
You knew. Still, you did nothing.
Oh, I forgot they play Country Roads on this. Badass. I forgot, yeah. That's Parkersburg right there. Yeah.
Hi, Grammars.
What are you doing here?
Your grandma tells me her grandson's some fancy environment lawyer down in Cincinnati.
I am a corporate defense attorney.
So?
I defend chemical companies.
Well, now you can defend me.
How many did you lose?
190.
190 cows.
You tell me nothing's wrong here.
It's a small matter for a family friend. Help a guy who needs it.
The farmer or you? That's chemicals, I'm telling you.
I'm seeing documents I don't understand. They're hiding something. That chemical.
DuPont.
Drank it. Drank it? It's like saying, what if I swallowed a tire? What if whatever's killing those cows is in the drinking water?
Now, we all don't have teeth like that.
DuPont.
I'm sorry. I hate when you do that.
Chemistry. It's our DNA.
You need to tell me what in the hell's going on.
DuPont is knowingly poisoning 70,000 local residents for the last 40 years. You knew, still you did nothing.
You want to flush your career down the toilet for some cowhand?
You want to take everything that you know and turn it against an iconic American company, like an informant. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Isn't that right?
Yes.
They have all the money, all the firepower, and they'll use it. I know. I was one of them. Our government is captive to DuPont. They're trying to force you to make me stop.
He was willing to risk his job, his family, for a stranger who needed his help.
The system is rigged. They want us to think it'll protect us. We protect us. We do.
Yeah. And everybody got a settlement, they got paid for it. Oops. Here's another video, if I can find it, I want to play about Parkersburg, Titletown. We finished second in Titletown. So we have second most titles. I mean, wrestling's a big deal. Like, there's probably nobody better in wrestling here. Very, maybe not too many. We had a sign too. I think we finished runner up. And they had like a thing they did at the high school. Let's see if I can find it. I'm sure it's up here somewhere. Yeah, here's one. It's a little bigger. Let's play this one. It was like back in 2008. I went to Sal. This is PHS.
West Virginia on a cool 100-degree afternoon, but it's done very little to dampen the spirits here of the Parkersburg faithful. Joining me now, Mike Hayden, who played 3 sports here, and then he became the head football coach, the crosstown rival, Parkersburg South. He has done it all. And, Coach, when you look out over this crowd and you see who is here, how does it make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel great. And, Wendy, this is what it's about, these youngsters here, because they're our most valuable resource that we have in this country. And we feel like that our youngsters in this particular community are as good, if not better, than anywhere you can find them.
Now, one thing that makes this community unique is that the student athletes who play here, they are from here. How does that affect the community and the spirit?
Well, we have no professional teams. We have no major college, university teams, so they focus all their attention on our young people and try to provide them with the best atmosphere possible and the best venues to excel and show what they can do. And they've done that to the tune of 192 state championships. And Wendy, when you put it in proper perspective, there are over 17,000 high schools participating in athletics in the United States. Very few of those high schools are able to win one championship, let alone 3 high schools that accumulate 192 of those.
And it's football country. There's no doubt about that. But what's interesting is that you've won in every
wrestling
sport. Why is that important?
Because they care about them. 17 different sports. And when Title IX came in, this community embraced Title IX. They didn't try to ignore it. They didn't try to walk away from it. When you look around here and you see our lovely female athletes, they're as good as anybody in the country. And so they said, if we're going to have athletics, we're going to have female athletics also, and we're going to excel. And they have, to the tune of at least 66 state championships since 1970 in girls athletics alone.
We've asked just about everybody to do this, so I think it's only fair. I'm going to ask you to make your best case right now. Why should Parkersburg, West Virginia be Titletown, USA?
We represent every small town and community in this country of ours. And we are a shining example of what a small community can do without professional teams, without major college teams, taking our homegrown product and putting it out as a showcase.
All right, I think we should ask if they agree. What do you think? You guys agree?
I've been searching for a place of my own. Now I've found it. Maybe this is home. This is come too far. Yeah, this is home.
Oh, we might have a sleeper. To join the conversation for which city should be Titletown, USA, go to ESPN.com and search Titletown. Voting begins for Titletown, USA tomorrow.
Okay, we finished second, but that's pretty good. Sorry. Got a little emotional. Ah. Got a little emotional. Damn. Yeah. Let's see if they got anything on Nick Swisher. He was a professional baseball player from here. Played with the Yankees, and he actually lived in Ohio, but then he moved here when he was 12, and then he graduated from PHS. And then he went to play professional baseball. He married an actress too, but his dad, I believe, still lives around here. Yeah, he see anything you talk about Parkersburg, but I remember they used to have a bulletin board of him when he